Chapter 4 Bride of Christ. The letter marked "Special Delivery" awaited May Frances when she entered the front room of the Gianfrancesco house on August 15, 1944. She ripped at the right-hand side of the envelope and pried out its contents. Recognizing the familiar handwriting, May froze. Her eyes flew to the underlined phrases slashed across the bottom of the page. The script had a tense, hurried bent. August 14th, 1944. My own dearest mother, when you receive this letter, I will be in Cleveland. I have entered the Adoration Monastery at 40th and Euclid. You know it better as St. Paul's Shrine. This, my dearest mother, I realize is a shock to you, but if I were to ask your permission, you would never have granted it. To have to enter in this way has hurt me tremendously. I wanted you to give me to our Lord as his spouse. It may be difficult for you to understand, but this is his most holy will. You have done many wonderful things for our Lord since my cure. He has a work for you to do. There are many souls that you can lead back into the true fold. Your work is on the outside, winning souls for him. Heed his plea and give all generously, without reserve, to his most sacred heart. Because I will be a spouse, his love for you will increase greatly. He loves you very much to ask this sacrifice of you. He wants to be first in your heart. You have put me before him in the past. Our Lord has tried to make you understand that Our Lord has tried to make you understand this all during your life. Do not, my dearest mother, attach yourself to anyone or thing on earth, but attach yourself to God alone, who is patiently waiting for all your love. A cloister, my mother, is a heaven on earth. It is the greatest privilege given to man on earth. This our blessed mother said to blessed Mary of Agreda. There will I tell him with every breath that I take that I love him. There will I make reparation for all the cold hearts in the world. Something happened to me after my cure. What it was, I don't know. I fell completely in love with our Lord. To live in the world for the past 19 months has been very difficult. I love you very much, and I have not forgotten what you have done for me. My love for you has increased since my cure, but if I were to stay in the world another month, I would leave it completely and enter into our eternal home. I am not of the world. Please trust him. You can always write, and you can see me once every 2 months. You will see me with the grate open. I will write once a month. We belong first to God, then to our parents. We are his children. I ask your blessing that I may reach the heights I desire. I love you very much. I want to thank Grandma for everything she has done for me. My beloved will reward her greatly. She will also be able to see me with the grate open. Love you, yours always, Rita. Tears streamed down May's face. First, the man she loved had abandoned her. Now her child, her rock, had followed suit. Hurt gave way to anger. A rant of self-pity began that would go on for hours. My only child is gone, she screamed hysterically. When she showed the letter to Grandma Gianfrancesco and Uncle Pete, they joined May's wild display. It was like I died, Mother Angelica explained. They said you could hear my mother screaming all over the block. She ran down to see the priest because she suspected that I had to get some baptismal and birth certificates. The priest said yes, he had given me one, but he didn't feel it was his place to tell my mother I was leaving. In the ensuing months, May would feel a deep sense of betrayal and a fresh anger whenever she thought about Rita. She told friends that Rita was ungrateful and had left her totally alone. A very regimented kind of life. On the evening of August 15th, 1944, Rita stepped off Cleveland's Euclid Avenue into the darkness of the St. Paul Shrine of Perpetual Adoration. Inside, she was instructed to kneel before the enormous wooden enclosure door. The portal to her new life opened, and there in the dim hallway, illuminated by a few exposed bulbs, were Mother Mary Agnes, Mother Mary Clare, and the sisters of the order in two single-file rows, facing one another. Veils concealed the identity of the nuns. When Rita stood, the sisters turned toward the interior of the cloister and led her in song to the chapel. The otherworldly ritual and its formality filled Rita with a wonder that awakened her excitement. Soon she would be a prisoner of divine love, a Franciscan nun of the most beloved sacrament. The French Order of Poor Clares was founded in 1854 by Father Bonaventure Hurlot and Josephine Boilevaix, later Mother Marie de St. Clare. Father Bonaventure, a zealous overachiever, envisioned a religious order dedicated to worshiping Jesus Christ in the Blessed Sacrament. According to Catholic doctrine, the consecrated host, or Blessed Sacrament, is no symbol, but the actual body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ. What Father Bonaventure lacked was a female superior. When he met the eldest daughter of the mayor of Mézières, Josephine Boilevaix, he discovered his foundress. Known for her strong will, Boilevaix, like Father Bonaventure, heard voices and received messages from God. Together they established the Sisters of the Immaculate Conception in a Paris apartment on December 8, 1854. The order owed its name to the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, proclaimed on the very same day by Pope Pius IX. The dogma insists that the Virgin Mary was protected from the stain of original sin, her soul having been immaculate from her conception. To honor the Virgin, Boilevaix, now Sister Marie de St. Clare, consecrated herself and all her future daughters to the Mother of God. She declared that every nun of the order would henceforth take the name Mary. Eventually, the sisters would relocate to Troyes, France. Under the patronage of the local bishop, they established a permanent monastery and took the name the Franciscan Nuns of the Most Blessed Sacrament. Continuing the tradition of St. Francis and St. Clare of Assisi, the order maintained an impetuous spirit and a childlike reliance on God in all things. The Mother Marie de St. Clare as superior, the order's mission was to adore the Blessed Sacrament in a spirit of perpetual thanksgiving, making reparation for mankind's ingratitude toward God. In a move that would take on great significance for Mother Angelica, the order was declared a pontifical institute by Pope Pius IX on September 15, 1868. From that time on, the religious order would answer only to the Holy See in Rome. From the Mother House in France, a new foundation of sisters was established by Mother Mary of the Cross in Poland and later in Vienna, Austria. Mother Mary of the Cross died in 1906, shortly after receiving the solemn vows of a Viennese nun named Sister Mary Agnes. In 1921, that nun crossed the ocean and founded the first American branch of the order in Cleveland, Ohio. This was the same nun, now Mother Mary Agnes, who, beneath the intricate network of exposed mahogany beams in the Gothic chapel in Cleveland, accepted Rita's promise to join the Franciscan nuns in the summer of 1944. Following the ceremony, Sister Veronica, the novice mistress, who whispered as if the angels were eavesdropping on her conversations, led Rita to the novitiate on the second floor. Here, a postulant, separated from the larger community, Rita would discern whether the cloistered life was truly for her. Traditionally, a woman remained a postulant in the order for 6 months. After that time, she would become a novice, receiving the habit and a new name. Still later, if it was determined that she could withstand the life, the sister was allowed to take temporary vows. With the permission of the solemnly professed nuns, these vows were renewed annually for 3 years. After 6 years, the sister could proceed to her solemn vows. The process was an arduous one. Rita would have problems from the start. The average day at St. Paul's Shrine permitted little flexibility. The nuns maintained a rigorous schedule to accommodate the praying of the divine office. They were expected to pray in unison 4 times a day, adore the Eucharist for 2 hours, attend Mass and recite the Rosary. Time for spiritual reading, recreation, household duties, and meals surrounded out their routine. Activities were intensely regulated, including the mandatory 4:50 a.m. rising time. Once the wooden clapper sounded in the hall each morning, the rule obligated the nun to announce Ecce et sum. Here I am, O Lord, to fulfill thy holy will in all things. Bless herself, and kiss the floor 3 times in honor of the Trinity. Washing was to be done kneeling on the floor. These and other rules were militantly observed, and deviations were not tolerated. Those who could not measure up to the high standards were asked to leave. Wearing a simple black dress and a cap, Rita attempted to conform to monastic life. She cleaned floors and baked altar breads as part of her initial assignments. During her first weeks in the cloister, she arrived late for prayer and made a habit of disturbing the elder sisters by bargaining through the enclosure doors. None of this escaped the watchful gaze of Mother Agnes. In her Germanic way, the abbess began to prune Sister Rita, imposing a series of humiliations on the young postulant to teach her obedience. Each time Rita happened upon the abbess, she was to cease all activity, kneel down, and kiss the scapular of the Reverend Mother. But Mother Agnes did not step there. In the presence of the entire community, the abbess would point out Sister Rita's faults, especially her volatile style of entering a room. As a penance, the plucky nun was made to kneel in the middle of the refectory, where the sisters ate, and recite a prayer that began, I am nothing, I can do nothing, I am worth nothing, I have nothing but my sins. Applesauce, Sister Rita would sometimes mutter under her breath after finishing the litany. The penance would be repeated Monday after Monday after Monday until the nun accepted it as truth. While these tests moved her contemporaries to tears, Sister Rita was neither broken nor particularly disturbed by them. My whole life was a matter of survival, and I think that attitude of survival just changed places, Mother Angelica told me. In the monastery, I had a lot of security. I didn't have to worry about anything. But after only a month in the cloister, Rita came down with pneumonia. Monastery records indicate that she was given permission to go to the hospital. Sometime later, following a bout with a sore throat, she left the cloister a second time to have her tonsils removed. The postulant's poor health became a source of concern for her superiors. In late September 1944, Sister Rita was called to the parlor. Required to have a chaperone present when meeting guests, Rita was joined by Sister Veronica. On the other side of the open grill sat Uncle Nick Gianfrancesco. His deep recessed eyes held a misty sorrow. He had come to inform Rita of Grandma Gianfrancesco's passing, and, as May's emissary, tried to convince her to return home. Somehow he couldn't find the words. For the better part of an hour, while Rita talked of the new abbreviated black veil she had just received and the beauties of the monastery, Uncle Nick wept as if he were attending a wake. To Nick Gianfrancesco, the alien environment must have seemed like a prison. Are you happy here? He asked in a voice broken with emotion. Oh yeah, Uncle Nick, I am. Satisfied, he dabbed his eyes and left for Canton. Back home, May Frances could still not accept what Rita had done. The canny abbess, correctly assessing the family situation, wrote to May, asking her to visit the monastery for another sister's investment ceremony, the idea to slowly introduce the hostile parent to the ways of the cloister. When May finally broke down and visited Cleveland in November 1944, she was allowed to see Mother Agnes, but not Rita. To offset May's disappointment, the abbess made a big fuss over her, building bonds of trust through kindness. Repeated visits would wear down May's resistance to Rita's vocation. Occupying the extern apartment during her monastery sojourns, she now felt like part of the family. May began to understand. Throughout her postulancy, Sister Rita immersed herself in spiritual writings. She studied everything from lives of the saints to the rule of her order. These works, coupled with a very regimented kind of life, slowly shaped Rita in her newfound Franciscan spirituality. As she adjusted to life behind the cloister walls, she strove to suppress the forceful personality that had endeared her to co-workers and friends in Canton, but cracks surfaced. On December 28th, the feast of the Holy Innocents, the elder sisters went up to the novitiate to mix with the postulants and novices. "My, you're quiet," one of the nuns said to Sister Rita. "Yeah, and I have nothing to be sorry for," Rita shot back, referring to the habit of admitting faults in the cloister. Keeping the brass side of her personality under wraps was challenging. Coping with a physical woe that had been afflicting her since early December only added to Sister Rita's crankiness. From the constant kneeling during prayers, penances, and work assignments, Rita's knees were swollen with fluid. Mother Angelica later described them as 2 puffy water-filled grapefruits. She could manage to walk, but kneeling became impossible, and kneeling was a major part of contemplative life at the time. A meeting of the professed nuns to vote on Sister Rita's admission to the novitiate was scheduled for February 1945, but her bad knees and other health problems forced a postponement of the vote. "In those days, health meant everything," Mother Angelica remarked. "If you had health, you had a vocation." For the moment, Sister Rita's vocation was in serious jeopardy.